Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tealium webinar, Road to Innovation, Tealium's 2024 Product Roadmap. My name is Matt Parisi. I'm joined by Jennifer Artabane, and we'll be taking you through Tealium's near-term roadmap. But before we head into that, well, let's take a quick word from our sponsor. We have our conference coming up in a couple of weeks, Tealium Digital Velocity. The theme this year is Welcome to the Real-Time Revolution, where moments matter. We'd love to have you there. And in fact, you can consider the roadmap that we'll be going through as kind of a bite-sized version of our roadmap. We've got a lot going on, so we're really focused on the things that are nearest term that will be coming out. But at the conference, we'll be talking about grander visions and have more information there. So we'd love to have you. If you're able to make it, check it out. You can find it on our website. So with that, like I said, my name is Matt Parisi. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Tealium, and I'm joined by Jennifer Artabane, who is our VP of Enterprise Products. If you have any feedback to the roadmap or questions, we'd love to hear. You have our emails there. Please feel free to reach out. If you don't know who Tealium is, I'm going to give you a little overview on who Tealium is. I expect most people in the room are probably Tealium customers, but just to give you, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Tealium, kind of a bite-sized description of who Tealium is, we are a customer data management solution, basically enabling companies to manage their customer data for the benefit of all of the venues where you might be engaging or analyzing the engagement that you have with your customers. So basically, our approach is to set up what we call the data supply chain, where we collect data from a variety of sources. We manage that data in the context of a customer to give you kind of an actionable customer view. And then we deliver that data downstream across a variety of channels, everything from your internal data infrastructure and your data warehouses to third-party venues like Facebook or Braze, where you might be engaging customers, whether it's in an advertising or marketing sense, to ultimately get more value out of, kind of the way that you're engaging your customers by having more intelligence in those engagements. Like I said, that was a very high-level description of exactly what we do. So if you do have additional questions, I would encourage you to go to the Tealium website, tealium.com, and kind of explore more there. We've got a lot of white papers and overviews of exactly what it is that Tealium does. But changing our focus from Tealium to kind of what we're focused on in the near term and, how we solve challenges on the market. The first thing to realize is that we are a customer data management solution. We think that customer data management is really one of the biggest levers that any organization can pull to improve their customer experience and also have some internal benefits in the side around, operational efficiency and those kinds of things. And of course, there's a lot going on in the market that kind of makes this vision a challenge. You have changes in the data that's available. You have regulations and expectations from customers on how you engage them. And ultimately, all of this needs to be managed across a whole number of different places, which can be a difficult task. But how you manage customer data, both externally in serving up customer experiences and internally as to how your internal teams work together, how different teams access data, how they use that data to trigger experiences, just as important for your business. It's both, there is no question that internal issues around process and technology tend to manifest in the customer experience that your business is able to deliver. So we're going to be talking a lot about kind of what's going on in the market today that we think will help you deliver internal and external benefits for your customer experience. So when we look at how, who Tealium is and the way that we develop functionality and build capabilities, before we talk about the individual things that we are building, it's important just to consider the way that, Tealium's ethos and how we develop products and what we think is really important. Because what you'll find is that all of these characteristics or these principles, these guiding tenets that you see on the screen make their way into how we develop our products and ultimately what product we we bring to market. And number one on that, on our list of principles is data first. We really think you should be managing your data for the benefit of the data itself, not as a subservient thing to an experience you're delivering or an analysis or a report that you're having. We really think that the data needs to be managed for the sake of itself in order to maintain your flexibility over time and use that data most effectively across your whole tech stack. We also think it's important that you own your data layer, that data layer is not owned by a vendor, and ultimately you're just configuring that tool, and when that vendor relationship goes away, that value is gone. We also think that over time, you really need flexibility and control. And a lot of this comes down to being data first. Ultimately, being able to adopt new technologies as they come out, but not leaving the old technologies in your wake. Those technologies ultimately tend to have to come with you as well. So having flexibility to adopt new technologies without losing control over your old ones. We develop our technology with real time as a requirement. We don't kind of develop piece by piece and then try to make it real time afterwards. We think about the whole, and we think about the whole solution being real time from end to end. We do not compromise on governance, so there's a lot of data quality stuff that you'll see in what we're building. We work with global organizations who have enterprise scale, so very high volumes where reliability is really important. And then ultimately, we're in the business of making data easier to use across all roles. Not, it doesn't matter if you're a developer or a marketer or a customer service agent. Ultimately, access to data and having that as easy as possible is something that pays off in the customer experience. So we think it's really important that we're making it easier for all roles, and Jennifer will talk a little bit about kind of how we're doing that for different roles. So with that, we can turn our attention to kind of the market forces that are at play that we are developing solutions around. And I'm going to give you 3 market forces, and then Jennifer is going to talk about how the products we're building fit into each one of those 3 market forces. But the first market force is that there are a lot of there's a lot of complexity in the market right now, and data is being used for a lot of different use cases. Ultimately, like I said at the beginning, customer data and strategic management of your customer data is a very powerful lever that you can pull for your business, because that customer data is can be the source of truth across many different technologies. So there's kind of a scaled effect to creating value here. But what you see on the screen here are the things that this is a study by Gartner from 2023, their Gartner Marketing Technology Survey, where they asked, what are the impediments to unleashing the full value of your marketing technology? And what you see here is that it is a multifaceted problem. There is technical complexity created by the diversity of solutions. There is data layer strategy issues, people having a strong data foundation that is going to power all of these various use cases. All of this needs to be wrapped up with data and privacy in mind. And then ultimately, this is a people and process is just as important as the data and technology, and needs to be unleashed in a way that is not going to be a frustrating process. So ultimately, what we refer to this force as is that data demands are growing exponentially. Well, AI is the newest requirement for your data, and there are a set of things you need to do for AI that are different from past applications of data. All of the things you were doing with your data for other purposes, like regulations, are still evolving and changing. So you have new things coming out, and the things that you had set up in the past are changing. And really, there's a variety of reasons why these things change. AI being kind of the topic du jour, but also privacy and consent, and then real time is another reason why it's important to have your data foundation ready to react in real time, because that's the most important time in the customer experience, when the customer is actually talking to your brand. So when we're thinking about solutions, we're ultimately thinking about how your data layer must adapt to serve these new demands. So you need to account for these new AI use cases. You need to automate compliance with these evolving regulations so that everything isn't down to a manual task. And you need to be able to support CX convenience and speed, because those are the top reasons why customers are loyal to brands. And that means interacting with intelligence at the time that they want to interact as a customer. So like I said, Jennifer will be going into the things we're building for each one of these. But with that, I'm going to shift into the second market force, which is all about kind of how things are shifting and ownership is changing across the organization. So this is another data point from the Gartner Marketing Technology Survey, basically showing how the business or marketing owns certain marketing technology aspects to managing the MarTech stack, and the IT team owns certain aspects of managing the technology stack, and ultimately how the ownership of these tasks is shifting. So the dark red is areas where it's shifting away, and the dark green are areas where it's shifting towards. And what you can see is that IT is taking greater ownership of a lot of what has historically been owned by the marketing department. And these things tend to be cyclical. Just because this is the trend today does not mean that that's not going to be the trend in the future. And I think the takeaway of this, there's a lot of different things that are shifting there. I don't think it's important to read each individual one. But what's important to recognize is that these things shift, and there's shared responsibilities where collaboration is really important. So the way we are thinking about this challenge on the market is really harmonizing data centers of gravity. And this is navigating how technology and strategy and ownership of technology and data is changing over time. Topics like composability, adopting more modular solutions that can work off of kind of shared resources. Collaboration, the marketing team and the IT team having a place where they can both go and feel comfortable and get value. And then ultimately being able to see business value between your technologies, not only in each channel technology, which gives you kind of a slice of the picture, but really being able to see kind of the connections and the relationships across it. So when we think about addressing this market challenge, we think about how your tech architecture is going to need to change to accommodate centralizing data storage. We're seeing increasing adoption of cloud data warehouses, adopting modular solutions that are ultimately able to kind of plug and play, have a different way of kind of like being agile and addressing changes, collaborating across more teams, and ultimately having shared systems where this collaboration can happen, and balancing data, tech, and CX needs, because they're all interrelated. So Jennifer will be taking us through what we're building on that, but time to shift over into market force number 3, which is around utilization. And I would characterize this more as the perception of utilization. If you read the question that this data is based on, it's thinking about the totality of the capabilities made available by marketing technology. What percentage of those capabilities are being utilized by your company today? And you see kind of this declining trend. So I think there's a lot of ways that you could interpret that question. So ultimately, I don't think the percentage is the thing that we should be looking at here, but there's kind of this perception that you're not getting out of your technology what you should be getting out of it for what you're paying. And ultimately, that is where we are focused on removing barriers to data value. So this comes down to making data easier for everyone to unlock. That might mean an API for a developer and a UI that does the same thing for a marketer, but ultimately in that same system where that collaboration can occur. And this is where we're focused on things like usability, observability, making sure you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on with your data foundation, and your flexibility to adopt those new tools and get new value out of new things. So ultimately, when we look at this force, this means that your data integration and your workflows around data integration, they need to reduce technical bars without risk. That's an important part of this. They need to automate processes so that ultimately you can do more with less time. And you need to be able to flexibly adopt emerging patterns, because your process today and your technology today are not going to stay the same. So you need something that's going to change with the business. So with that, enough talking about the trends that are going on, and let's talk about kind of the functionality that Tealium is building to address these trends, starting with the first trend that we talked about. And I'll turn it over to Jennifer to go through these, what we're building.
Great, thank you, Matt. As Matt has mentioned in all three of these forces, what we're seeing is so many different groups within the organization and outside of the organization wanting to access and talk to your customer. We are seeing more and more of the business focusing on driving those incredibly powerful customer experiences. And the first trend that Matt talked about was around kind of the demands on the data and how the data is now needing to serve more purposes. And how is that, how are some of these new trends that are coming about? Of course, AI being the topic du jour for everyone, but how are all of these things impacting what you're trying to do with your data and how you're collecting your data and how you're working and talking to your customer? So one of the things that we're thinking about a lot at Tealium, of course, is AI. And how are we helping you and your businesses be ready for AI? AI is one of those, again, it is a term that can mean so many different things to different people, but ultimately it's trying to help you find better ways of connecting with your customer, whether that be in anticipating what they're needing or wanting, or presenting them with experiences that they didn't know that they wanted at the time. And all of that, of course, has the underlying component of data. When we've talked to data scientists, one of the things we have heard about is that building the models is complex, of course, but getting data that is ready to put into those models is by far the biggest challenge. Having clean data that is ready to be used right away, that has all of the information, is incredibly difficult. And so as we think about where Tealium is going and what we're trying to provide, we have this incredibly clean pipeline of data that we've been working with you for hopefully years to collect from your various inputs, making sure that it's consented and having all of the various compliance aspects to it, and then being ready to syndicate and utilize within your AI systems and models. As we think about this and where we're, what we're delivering here with Tealium for AI, which is a new product that we're introducing to market. It's actively in our early access. That's what EA stands for, early access program. This is really helping you make sure that you are putting the right data into those models. As Michael Dell just said a few weeks ago, bad data is going to lead to bad AI. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. That's not going to kind of help you drive your customer experiences the direction you want. But if you can have all of that, whether it be specific data that's consented and ready to go, or you might even have different sets of data that you want to send and use in different models. All of that can be effectively managed and ensure that where your data is being used and how it's being used is of most value to you and your customers. And speaking of value to your customers, we are all in this world of changing how we're interacting and capturing information from our customers. I've been thinking for a while, as I think all of us have, that the third-party cookie will disappear at some point in time. Google keeps changing the goalpost on us here, but this has definitely helped every brand and every team think about how they are interacting with and talking to their customer. How are they deciding or understanding new information about them, and more of a shift to that first party data and those first party connections that we're seeing. So again, as we're thinking about how we are using that information, how are we also capturing that information? One of the things that we've spent a lot of time over the last few months thinking about is zero-party data, and that's what's in the top left-hand corner on this slide here. It's a type of first-party data. It is definitely data that is directly acquired from your customer, but in this case, they've intentionally provided that to you. We're thinking about how we can help you and your customers better connect in capturing zero-party data directly from them to then drive the most appropriate experiences. We think a lot about customer experiences in the moment at Tealium. We've talked a little bit, or Matt talked a little bit about real time being kind of at the core of everything we do. We think about how driving those incredibly powerful customer experiences is vital. And as we've also talked about kind of those growing demands on your data and on your experiences, how are you best able to translate the information you have into the right next experience for your customer? So Also, a new feature that we have recently moved into our early access is Moments IQ. This is a feature that allows you to capture declarative data directly from your customer to then utilize that in whatever way might make sense. It may make sense to create the next contextualized experience or to enrich their profile and what you know about them to then utilize downstream. This again allows you to have cleaner information that you're using about your customer to then respond to all of the growing needs and the growing teams around the organization. And it wouldn't be a conversation about data if we didn't also talk about privacy and governance. The demands on what you're trying to do with your data are continuing to grow. Again, whether that's AI, whether that's delivering personalized experiences, whatever it might be that you are trying to do to build those extremely valuable customer experiences. But we also know that customers are becoming more sensitive to what data we are capturing about them, what we're using about them, what we're keeping on them. And so also one of our core tenets is around governance and privacy. Last year, we released a new sort of ecosystem of connections to consent management platforms for our Tealium IQ or tag management solution that allows you to immediately connect with your various CMPs and then fire tags appropriately. This year, in the next few weeks, we're going to be moving our consent orchestration functionality into early access as well. And this is a way for you to manage with that consent signal what downstream interactions are firing or potentially not firing. A quick visual for you to give an idea is that this is sort of a centralized place for you to orchestrate how you are interpreting those various signals that you have from your customer. So if you think from the left, I'm capturing in my CMP what my customer is giving me permission to do with their data. And that then is flowing through the Tealium system out to any of my downstream customer experience connections, whether that be my analytics or again, personalization. And you'll see here that based on how we are getting the data on the left will determine what connections we can fire on the right. This is definitely your data auditor's favorite new feature in the future. They are, looking forward to knowing with confidence that you are, using that information appropriately as you're driving those experiences. Some of the great benefits that, again, we're looking forward to delivering with this is really that ease of mind, reducing kind of the time and complexity, making it easier for you to build and deploy all of those different experiences and ensure that your consent signals are being used accordingly. I'm going to move now to our second theme and some of the features and functionality that we're delivering, have been delivering and will be delivering over the next few quarters around this. As Matt was mentioning a minute ago, we're hearing a lot about all of the different groups within the organization who are interacting with or having some ownership over the technology systems, but also over the customer experience. It is no longer just the marketing team that is thinking about the customer experience and talking to the customer. I hear from many of our customers and brands throughout the globe, because we do have customers internationally, about how their customer success or their customer support teams are looking to interact with customers and have that interaction. How your product development team might be looking for information to understand your customer so they can build better products or future products. Your finance team even. The list kind of goes on. And I think that's a little bit of why the shift is happening from those technologies being owned by marketing, because marketing used to be the primary user, to now being owned by IT. Because IT is now saying, well, marketing needs to use it and finance needs to use it and product wants to use it. How do we make sure that we have sort of that coordinated effort around all of this data that's coming into and going out of our organization? So we think about this a lot around this data centers of gravity. Where are these data centers of gravity starting to live? Well, we are very much focused on real-time data. It is kind of what Tealium has always been about. And it's something that we think is incredibly important, is having and capturing and driving those real-time experiences. But we recognize that every company has a lot of information about their customer that they've been storing in maybe long-term storage, cloud data warehouses. We think they're better together. There is so many different ways that when you put those two pieces of information together, that your customer can now benefit from it. How can we take that, historical information about knowing all of the interactions I've ever had with Jennifer, and now seeing her web clicks or her traffic on our website or on our mobile app, and realizing that when she calls into our call center, she's probably calling about some of those last pages she was just visiting, or some of the things. But I am not just going to talk to her about, all of the history we've had over the last 3 years, but I can also interact with her and talk to her about the things that are happening right now as well. So all of that sort of blending together of information helps both your internal teams better organize and work together, as well as delivering more of those incredibly powerful customer experiences where I feel very much like you know me because you know all about me, not just my history or not just my present, but all of it together. So we've definitely been spending a lot of time thinking about the cloud data warehouse ecosystem, about what is happening within kind of the broader storage. Our CTO, Mike Anderson, has an analogy about hard drive and RAM. And if you've ever heard that one, you probably are familiar with it. But there's definitely, again, kind of each of these has their purpose, and each of these is working together in concert. We are looking at and building ways to directly bring data in from your cloud data warehouse, and then merge it together with your real-time data. Recently, we are releasing or about to release a new inbound connection from Snowflake to Tealium. That's that item on the far right, that will allow us to, again, have that sort of interaction with your Snowflake cloud data warehouse. We expect that Snowflake is just the first of many, so more to come as we, of course, tackle some of the others that are out there. Similarly, we're also making sure that we can bring that real-time data that you are capturing within Tealium back into your cloud data warehouse for whatever downstream purpose you might need, whether that be AI or BI or any kind of analytics, or just, again, to update your system of record. Whatever that might be in your system, getting that data back out of Tealium or through Tealium and down to your cloud data warehouse is also incredibly important. We've also just released here a new connector with Snowflake, which is a real-time streaming connection to Snowflake, and it takes that data directly out of, from Tealium and over to Snowflake as faster than any other method that's available today. So these are the beginnings of what we hope to see as a sort of a broader cloud data warehouse partner ecosystem, allowing you to connect your cloud data warehouse together with your customer data platform and that real-time information that you're bringing together. I've mentioned Snowflake a few times already. I can tell you that Databricks is next on our list of one that we're already actively in the process of researching and determining kind of next steps. And then I won't do the whole list of all of the rest of them, but yes, we are thinking about them. And the exact order is still to be determined. But if you did not hear the name of your cloud data warehouse in Snowflake or Databricks, I promise we're thinking about it, but we always would love to hear from you as well, so we can make sure we keep our priorities correct. Right now, we are in active early access with our Snowflake connector outbound, and our inbound connector is going to be in early access within the next few weeks. So we're very excited about that. We talk a lot about real time, and we also talk a lot about using that really valuable data that you have, again, both in the history of your customer and their interactions with you, as well as what they're doing today. We hear more and more that personalization or real-time personalization, hyper-personalization is extremely important, and we're really excited to introduce the Tealium Moments API. This is also a new feature that is in our early access program and will be moving to general availability over the summer. This is a new API endpoint that allows you to capture, or I should say, retrieve visitor data that is available within Tealium, specific visitor data, in whatever interface or moment you need it to be available to you. We've made this API as fast as humanly possible. I am so impressed with our engineering team with the speeds with which this data is retrieving. And it's so fast. It is trying to solve the problems that we know many of you are seeking to solve on first page personalization. So it can retrieve that data back to your first page of your website or your mobile app before the customer even realizes the page has flickered and given some new experience. This potentially allows you to continue that conversation with them of where they last left off, or again, personalize the interaction that you're having with them right from the beginning. And don't let first page be the only place you might use this. You could, again, customize this API to pull specific data points at different interaction points to allow you to create the most valuable and contextualized experience at that point in time. Again, really excited about how this information can start to drive new and different experiences for you. And again, whether that's coming from your marketing team or your customer support team, whomever it might be that's looking to kind of have that information at their fingertips. We also are thinking a lot about the complexity of identity. With the sunsetting, I'll just call it that, of the third-party cookie, we're all starting to scramble and think about how we're going to best identify our customers. It's great when they log in. We love it when they log in, but a lot of times we have many different ways of identifying our customers. And it's going to be more and more important for organizations to have ways to connect those different interactions cohesively. Our teams have been thinking a lot about this, both in what would be an appropriate upgrade and sort of addition to our identity stitching algorithms, as well as how we think about your individual visitor being part of a group. So some new thoughts and research going on in these areas that we're hoping to develop and deliver for you later this year or early next year. In addition, we're also looking at how we are helping you better understand what's happening with your data, with your customer, to then, again, drive the most valuable experiences. We've been recently releasing and delivering more visualizations, data visualizations within the software platform, allowing you to see some of the information that is already being captured. We're looking to expand that within the next year to provide more visibility for you in what is happening within your experience, how your customers are moving between your audiences, and then, of course, making sure that you're driving the most valuable experience forward. And it wouldn't be Tealium if we didn't talk a little bit about our integrations. We are well over, what is it now, Matt? Over 1,200 these days, and we continue to add. So did I get the number somewhat right?
You're in the ballpark.
I'm in the ballpark. Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And we are, continuing to add integrations on a quarterly basis. In some cases, of course, those various partners that you're looking to drive experiences through are upgrading or adding new functionality. And of course, our team is making sure that our integrations are able to provide that to you. But then beyond that, of course, as there are new ways and new teams and new parts of your organization that are looking to connect with your customers, how are we ensuring that we can move that data into all of those downstream systems, again, whether those be internal for your teams internally to connect or external to work with your customer. Now, as I move into our third theme here around removing the barriers to data value, I have to say this is an area that I think is extremely exciting because it's really about how we are helping your teams become more connected. As I've already mentioned, it's becoming quite common that we hear about multiple different parts of the organization that are working with the data that's in Tealium or flowing through Tealium or being kind of used around Tealium, and not just different departments, but different types of individuals, as Matt mentioned before, whether those are developers or end users in your business units, maybe your data analysts, your AI data scientists now even. And so how are we helping make sure that it's easier for everyone within the organization to work with your data? This is one of those areas where we find, and I think this is also from that same Gartner report before, but that the ease of use of various technologies is by far one of the most commonly referenced or called out sort of barriers when it comes to collaboration and utilizing technology. So trying to kind of help reduce that friction where we can. One of the things that we've been working on for a while, and we're excited to continue to deliver this to our customers, is around our audience functionality and audience building workflow. Late last year, we released our new Streamlined Audiences user experience that provides you a new and easier streamlined approach to setting up your audiences. We're continuing to expand upon the functionality that's available and making sure that you and your teams can build and execute what you're looking to do with your customers and those experiences. We are now in an early access on our audience sizing functionality. This is different from the sizing that is already in our application in that it is embedded within the audience building workflow. So no longer do you have to go elsewhere. You can be right in the process of building out your audience, saying, I would like customers with badge A and attribute B, and how many people would that possibly be? It's also not necessarily sampling like the previous functionality did. This is an accurate calculation, so it is giving you a projected audience size. I say projected because it is still within the Tealium system waiting for that next event to occur to populate the audience. But that third item on the list here is where we hope to alleviate some of that weight that maybe you have today. So the next step is that once we've built the audience, you've sized it, this has 100,000 individuals in it, let's go ahead and create that audience today and populate it or fill it with all 100,000 that we know about and not wait for that next event. So we're really excited about populate audiences. And then sort of the last piece of this around audience refresh is updating that audience based on whether that's a schedule, the beginning of every month, wanting to refresh the audience for this month's birthdays or whatever might be the right use case for you. So excited about how this will help your teams better interact with and build the experiences they're looking for. We've this is a quick screenshot, hard to see a little bit, but a quick screenshot of some of that new streamlined audiences and some of the enhancements that you're seeing and will be seeing over the coming months. Again, excited about how this can streamline what is sometimes an arduous process for teams today. I mentioned insights a minute ago and providing more visibility into what is happening in the system. We are excited to be working on and rolling out a number of features around observability and helping better understand when data is flowing correctly and maybe not correctly. So we've recently released a new data visualization dashboard on our connector area of the application, provides you some detailed information there. And then over the next few quarters, we'll be exposing more of the data about your connectors, about the errors that you're encountering, or maybe that potentially need to be addressed through methods, whether those be through API or streaming. So providing you more accessibility into information about what's happening within the system. I haven't spent too much time talking about Tealium IQ, but we have a handful of things that we're thinking about here. And as Matt mentioned a minute ago, I invite you to come to our Digital Velocity conference to hear a little bit more about where we may be going in the future. But we have definitely spent a lot of time over the last year really thinking about how to make capturing the data easier for you. So we implemented last year our Tealium IQ events, which are no-code tag activation triggers. We've extended that this year to include some additional triggers or events that you might want to be tagging. And similarly have been extending and simplifying, streamlining some of the versioning functionality. So when you save or publish and how all of that is working. Really kind of, again, making it easier for you to capture data and work together within your teams to get the information you need. On our server side, or audience stream and events stream side of the house, we are similarly looking at versioning and looking forward to delivering a new save and publish workflow in the third quarter of this year. Again, that'll go into early access at that point, which is a way for our customers to work together in a more collaborative manner. So reducing the challenges that exist today on potentially overriding changes or having to coordinate when you are making changes in the system. We are looking to eliminate that with some new save and publish workflows, as well as a new version history data visualization to give you information on exactly what's happening. Later, we'll also be tackling helping streamline some of what we refer to as the QA workflows. You know, many of our teams are working together to put together some changes, new experiences that they want to deliver to their customers, want to test that out in a lower environment or in a non-production world before they ask all their customers, and then recreate those same workflows again in their production environments. Trying to streamline a lot of that for you so that we're able to expedite and enhance kind of how you are approaching the execution of the experiences that you're building out. And I'll lastly end here on APIs, which I think is an area that we are really looking forward to delivering more in 2024 and into 2025 and beyond. I spoke just a minute ago about our newest API, the Moments API. That is a visitor API, specifically calling targeted information within your visitor profile. And we are looking to deliver additional APIs on the visitor and audience functionality over the next 12 to 18 months, as well as functionality on our Tealium IQ or TIQ side as well. So this is expanding the ability for anyone within your organization to access and really work with the data in the system and work with Tealium on a day-to-day basis. My slides are frozen. Okay, so in summary, we have a lot of really strong and powerful forces that are out there making, all of our lives a little bit more difficult, having us jump through so many hoops to try and make sure that the data that is being collected is being used in the best possible way. Of course, isn't being used when it shouldn't be with consent and privacy, and that everyone within our organizations is able to interact and work together in a collaborative manner, using the information as appropriate. We're really excited about all of the sort of functionality that we're working on today, where we're going in the future. And we did focus this really on kind of our nearer term roadmap. I do, want to call out one more time that we have a lot of ideas in mind that we've been kind of in research, starting to explore for kind of further down. And I do invite you to come to our Digital Velocity event to hear a little bit more about that. And with that, I will turn it over to questions.
Thank you. Yeah, Jennifer, a lot to talk about. So if you do have a question on any of the individual features, please go ahead and log those. There should see a question mark where you can kind of type in your question. I do see one we have from Eric. Maybe not necessarily related to the ones that he called out, but possibly related to some other things that just came off the roadmap, actually. But for your solutions on third-party cookie loss, identity stitching 2.0 and visitor grouping, would these solutions apply IDs to anonymous website visitors that media channels could use for remarketing?
Great question. And I will have to say that I think there's a number of things that we are thinking about and researching when it comes to exactly what problems we're trying to solve. Of course, we do tag all anonymous visitor data in our system as well, and we capture that. So that is already coming through. But I think what you're then looking for is, can I take anonymous visitor X and connect it to Jennifer and know that they are the same person so that I can retarget and remarket to her later? There's obviously complexity to that. Depends on the data you have. Depends on kind of what flexibility we might have in making some of those decisions. Our identity stitching strategy is still very deterministic. And so we're not yet moving further into a probabilistic identity approach, but that may be something that we consider in the future, and may be more appropriate in some of those approaches.
Yeah, now I was going to give a quick plug to the identity partner ecosystem that we actually released last year, which integrates with a lot of those solutions that Jennifer just managed. That are those companies function more as data brokers, whereas Tealium does not function as a data broker. But the functionality that we're building will absolutely help you connect the insights from those types of solutions with the deterministic data that we are able to manage. We have a little slogan by the name of "Stitch deterministically, enrich probabilistically," so that we make sure we're getting the identity right, but you can layer on some insights and use those insights for things like remarketing efforts. All right, going to the next question, Laura. We have one from Laura that she's asking, are there any previews or wireframes of the connector reports?
So the new connector dashboard is available in the application today. It is we are not defaulting it on, although it is generally available. If you do not yet see it in your account, just feel free to reach out to our team and we can make sure that that gets turned on in your account. Unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot on me today, but I appreciate the question and I'll definitely make sure I throw it in there for the future. A note though also, those are the dashboards that are directly in the application. Some of the future functionality is going to be kind of streaming or APIs, and those will be, messages that would be delivered similar to connectors and into sort of whatever systems you may need. So not necessarily our user interface in that case, but the dashboards that we did just deliver are in the application.
Cool. Next question from Mariah. Will consent orchestration help manage consent for tags hard-coded on the website, not just tags in Tealium?
So consent orchestration is specifically focused on your server side delivery of data. So it would not necessarily in that case be effective or affecting the tags. However, the consent marketplace or consent ecosystem that we released, which is connected to your tags, would call out to your consent management platform, receive that signal back, and then know which tags to fire accordingly, or if a tag could be fired. And so those would be obviously the tags that are being deployed by Tealium.
Great. Next question from David. For the data source alerts, is the plan to be able to set those up in the UI, or would you need a third-party tool?
And I think, David, you're meaning the alerts or the logging for the outbound connectors. So not necessarily coming in, but maybe going out of Tealium. The idea would be that you, initially the idea is that you would stream those to likely a third-party tool that you may already be monitoring. However, we do intend in the future to provide some visibility internally. I do want to call out though that we are looking at where we can provide visibility into errors or alerting throughout the system. And so our team that's currently working on some of our inbound data source connections is also going to be implementing some of the logging that we're talking about here. And similarly, those would be available either to be streamed to your system, or we would have a user interface at one point for you to visualize those. So hopefully more visibility all around in whatever format works for you. Flexibility is our middle name.
All right, well, that is all of our questions. If anybody wants to try to sneak another one in, you got a couple seconds here. But with that, I'll start wrapping us up here. As you can see, our roadmap is pretty action-packed. We are only focusing on kind of the near-term items. Like I said, we do have our Digital Velocity Conference, which we'd love to have you at, coming up on June 10th through 12th at La Costa in sunny San Diego. So definitely a great place to check some other stuff out while you're in town. But we got one more question. All right, one came in. I guess I said we'd take it. So from Brian, where can we get more details on the new visitor relations API? I think you mean visitor profile API documentation page.
Right.
How would you?
Yeah, so our new Moments API, which is the composable or configurable API that you can set to capture, or sorry, excuse me, retrieve. I keep saying capture. I did not mean that. To retrieve data from your visitor profile is currently in early access. I believe that documentation is still in our early access section of our documentation. However, if you do not find it there, again, please do feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure that we can provide that to you.
Yeah, so great segue. If there are any more questions, definitely feel free to reach out. If you're not a customer already, check out Tealium.com and you can submit your questions there. There's a chat bot and you can set up fill out a contact form and we can get in touch. Or if you are a customer, please inquire with your CSM who can get you more details on any of the features that we've talked about today. Like Jennifer said, there is a lot of documentation on a bunch of the early access features that we talked about already in our community. There's a early access section of the documentation that you'll be able to check out. We can point you in that direction. But if you're not coming to DV, please consider coming, and we will see you there, and we can discuss all of these things in greater depth. But with that, we'll say goodbye, and like I said, we'll see you in the next webinar. Bye, everyone.